Good afternoon, Memphis. I've got 3 words for you. Here we go. Playoff basketball back here in Memphis, and it doesn't get any bigger than this, Avery. Grizzlies, Lakers in the first round of the NBA playoffs. We can catch the game right here on ABC24 at 2 p.m. We have the game on our air. Doesn't get much better than that as well. Avery, first of all, let me just ask you, what's it like here seeing every growl towel on every seat in this house right now?
Man, if you're not in the building, I feel bad for you because it's about to be crazy inside FedEx Forum tonight. The Grizzlies, one of the best teams in their home floor, one of the best teams in the NBA. It's been a wild ride this season, and I'm just excited to see how this community in this city is about to rally around this team and hopefully get into a really deep playoff run. And it starts with the LA Lakers tonight.
And we have a great show coming up for you. We have CJ Hurt coming up from Grind City Media just a couple minutes here. Dave McMenamin from ESPN is going to join us, and Pete Pranica, the Grizzlies play-by-play announcer, expected to hop on for us as well. So we're going to get right into it. But first of all, I wanted to start this thing off by talking about Game 1. Obviously, the start of the series doesn't make or break a series, but it can definitely set the tone. In fact, John Morant was asked about that back on Thursday, and he had this to say about the importance of Game 1.
Definitely very important. Obviously, you know, it sets example for us, and you know, sends a message, you know, that we're ready to go, you know, from Game 1. So winning that game is important for us. Obviously, one game doesn't win a series, but to have that momentum for us, you know, on our home floor, coming back in, you know, for Game 2 is an important thing for us. And you know, definitely, you know, our goal is to go out and, you know, win every game, you know, we step out there on the floor. So.
And it's our pleasure to have CJ Hurt joining us right now. CJ, we just heard from John Morant talking about the importance of Game 1. What do you think the level of importance is for the Grizzlies to start out here on a good note?
It's always good to set the tone. Set the tone. Game 1 is where you do that. Listen, with this good team in this series, it's going to be all about keeping your poise and your composure. It's not going to be easy. You will have moments of great adversity. You will have moments where you fall behind, where you might get down big. But if you keep your composure, you should be fine. The coach used to tell me, the cream always rises to the top. And in this series, the Grizzlies are that cream if they play Grizzlies basketball and don't get rattled.
Yeah, I gotta concur with that. As long as you just kind of float. You just float along, make sure you kind of tread water, and then you're going to get to a point where you swim sometime throughout this series. Now, on the importance of Game 1, the Grizzlies know firsthand how hard it can be to win a series when you don't win Game 1. They were the second seed in the playoffs last year, had home court advantage, and in those first 2 series, both against the Warriors, they lost Game 1. And it makes it a whole lot harder to maintain your composure and come out with a series win when you don't take on Game 1. So they understand they've got to get one at home. They can't let the Lakers steal one in either one of these first two games.
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying it this week. I think there's, to some degree, a level of pressure on the Grizzlies to come out 2-0 in this series because we've seen it's been a struggle for them on the road. Playoff environment in LA, that's going to be tough. And if you end up 1-1, I think there's a chance you come back to FedEx Forum down 3-1 in this situation. So I think there is a level of pressure, a level of importance of making sure you come out 2-0 in this home series. CJ, do you disagree?
Listen.
I know you and I disagree.
We disagree on the series, but yes and no, right? It goes back to being poised and composure. Think about what transpired yesterday in the playoffs, where you've got the Sacramento Kings and Golden State Warriors. Golden State had that game for most of it, throughout. It was a 10, 12-point game for most of it, and you look up because Sacramento kept chopping the wood. They kept swinging, they didn't get down, they kept playing their style of basketball. You look up, in the last 4 minutes, they got the lead. It's not going to be easy. So even if you get up 2-0, go down 0-2, you have to believe in yourself and in your system and what you have going and keep fighting through. Possession after possession, game after game to go out there. If they do go down, go back to LA 1-1. Listen, I know they've struggled on the road, but this was a team who played that Lakers team in LA and could have won that game if Desmond Bane doesn't do the inexplicable and pick the ball up just over half court, right? Be strong with your ball, just little stuff, fundamentals, box out, chase down the rebound, dive on the floor, don't pick up your dribble at half court, just little stuff like that can swing a possession, it can swing a game, swing momentum in the series.
Now, talking about important factors of the series, Taylor Jenkins was asked about the foul trouble, which is a huge factor that we've been talking about. Jaren Jackson Jr., Dylan Brooks, obviously top 15 in the NBA at fouling this year on getting fouled, not drawing fouls.
Yeah.
Here's what Taylor Jenkins had to say about the importance of making sure they avoid foul trouble in this series.
Yeah, I mean, well, I've just talked to them about, how they've got to be smart. We can't get any silly fouls out there. They accumulated quite a bit of fouls in the 3-game matchup against them. Understanding where those fouls are created, whether it's Davis, it's James, Reeves is drawing a lot of fouls, Schroeder's drawing a lot of fouls, and it's free throws, it's, the offensive rebounding, it's the downhill drives. We got to be smart.
So, CJ, I wanted to ask you, I mean, there's been a lot of talk about this, about LA getting, LA calls, superstar calls. Do you think that can decide this series?
Not if the Grizzlies don't let it. Not if the Grizzlies are, again, stop me if I said it before, stop me, are poised. You've got to handle that. You just do. You can't let the calls dictate how you play. Too many times this season, Jaren has gotten a ticky-tack foul, and then the very next possession picked up another ticky-tack foul. Just out of frustration. You can't do that. There will be at least one 5-minute stretch where nothing goes your way. The calls aren't going your way. The fans are on your back. Shots aren't falling for you. All the shots are falling for them. You have to weather that and say, all right, we'll be fine. Just keep playing through it. And you have to play through it. You have to stay poised. I understand that there's an expectation for a lot of foul discrepancy or a large foul discrepancy. You can't let that dictate this series. Be tougher than that. Be tougher up here than that.
And that's going to come down to those Lakers stars, right? You're talking about LeBron James and Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis in particular is really going to put a lot of pressure on Jaren Jackson Jr. He's averaging 29 points, 20.5 rebounds in the 3 games that the Grizzlies have played the Lakers this year. And it'll be interesting to see how the Grizzlies handle what Anthony Davis is able to bring to the table, because if Jaren Jackson Jr. can be allowed to play off ball and play off-ball defense as opposed to on-ball, then most likely you're going to avoid some of that foul trouble that we as a fan base or as the Grizzlies fan base or the Grizzlies organization is so worried about. So I definitely think that's something they've kept in mind going into this series. What Anthony Davis is going to be able to do, as well as LeBron James, is going to be important, because the Lakers have a plus 400 differential in free throw attempts compared to the next closest team. The next closest team is somewhere around 200. So that's an incredible amount of foul shots that's going to be created in this series, and I think the officiating is going to be wary of that. The LA Lakers are certainly going to try to emphasize that, and the Grizzlies are going to try to avoid it. So I think the foul shots and the foul territory is going to be a big deal in this one.
CJ, we really appreciate you coming in. Before we get going, you and I had to argue.
No, we did.
I was saying it's Grizz in 7. You had another opinion.
Grizz in 5. Going back to 1984 when the NBA went from 12 teams to 16 teams. You like that, don't you?
Yeah.
5 times a 7 seed has beat a 2 seed. The most recent 7 seed to knock off a 2 seed, 2010, when the San Antonio Spurs knocked off the Dallas Mavericks. We talked a lot about the Lakers stars. We talked a lot about the Lakers front court. Sure, there may be a slight advantage there. There's going to be an advantage in fouls getting called in the Lakers' favor, but the Grizzlies got Ja. That the Lakers haven't been able to stay in front of him. And not only have they not been able to stay in front of him, they haven't been able to stay in front of Desmond Bain. So if you've got those two coming downhill with Tyus Jones or Luke Kennard or Santi or Jaren open on the perimeter, I think that's the difference in the series. The perimeter play for the Grizzlies is so much better than that for the Lakers. 5.
All right.
There's a 5. Bold prediction. I like it.
Yeah. I mean, hey, he's a bold guy.
I am bold, baby.
And that's why he's CJ Hurt.
I'm up here on the Jumbotron somewhere. I'm still trying to see me, baby.
You can see him mornings on Grind City Media. CJ, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, man.
Thank you, sir. Look forward to seeing you on the Jessica Benson Show on Grind City Media.
So am I out?
With CJ Hurt.
With CJ Hurt.
With CJ Hurt. I'm out, baby. Y'all be good.
All right, thank you, CJ.
Always love getting to talk with CJ. And I don't know how this man has that energy at 8 in the morning and
2 in the afternoon. It doesn't matter.
It's consistent. I mean, it's not just on air. This guy is like that all the time. So we love having CJ. Thank you so much for him for coming in as well. Grizz in 5, I don't know about that. I personally think this is going to be a tougher series because both teams are very good at opposite things. The Grizzlies, their strength, there's nobody there that can come in and get Ja Morant. For me, I think the half court is where the Lakers have the advantage. And what do you think about that, Avery?
I think a lot of it's going to come down to some of the lineups that we see. The stars are going to be the stars. Anthony Davis is going to be Anthony Davis. LeBron's going to be LeBron. John Morant's going to be John Morant. You got to have somebody outside of the stars to make a big play. I would like to be really interested in what Taylor Jenkins is going to do with his lineups. You look at a Tyus Jones, a Desmond Bane, and a Luke Kennard situation. They're plus 20 in net rating when those guys are on the floor. That's with John Morant not on the floor necessarily. So if they can do something with a lineup like that, you've got to win the minutes when your stars are not on the floor. So I think the bench and really those others are really going to play a big part. We're going to introduce a new guest, Dave McMenamin with ESPN, joining us covering the Lakers a lot. Dave, how your first couple of days in Memphis, man? You got some barbecue in you yet?
Barbecue. I went to a spot called Catherine and Mary's last night. Really good. Great dinner. Had a couple adult beverages afterwards. Great. And yeah, so far the city's been alive. You can feel the playoff atmosphere. Certainly, weekend games always a fun way to start things off. So I think we'll be making a couple trips back here. I can see it going the distance. 7 games this series.
Well, you got plenty of time between game 1 and game 2 to get as much barbecue as you want. So I got to tell you, barbecue shop on Madison. Okay. Get the barbecue spaghetti. Sounds gross. It's actually really good.
No, barbecue spaghetti is the truth. I will say Arnold's Barbecue on Madison near the Red Zone's AutoZone Park downtown where the Redbirds play. Another really great spot. A little couple of recommendations for you guys out there.
Never heard of barbecue spaghetti before.
We'll get you right.
And I'm from New York, so I'm telling you, it sounded like sacrilege to me when I first got here, and then I tried it. They also have this Texas toast that they put on.
Okay.
Anyway, let's talk about basketball.
Easy to get on a tangent when it comes to barbecue in Memphis.
We were just talking with CJ Hurt from Grind City about this series. On his end, he thinks this is Grizz in 5. I was saying I think this is going to be a longer playoff series. What is your take when you look at this? Obviously, Vegas says this is the shortest odds of any playoff series.
Yeah.
I think the Lakers have been playing really well defensively since they made the trades, and that's what's going to have to carry them. But part of that is how they play offensively and execute by taking care of the basketball. Last time they played here, 26 turnovers led to 41 points for Memphis. If that type of script is followed again, it will be a short series, and Memphis will run them off the floor. They're younger, they have more continuity, and they have home court advantage. This crowd's going to go nuts. So the Lakers got to be very intentional with the basketball, and just defensively, they were allowed to play with a lot of force in that playing game. The whistles were swallowed a lot of times. They were able to play with the aggression, and maybe with Memphis missing Steven Adams, missing Brandon Clark, the Lakers will have the size advantage in the series.
Now, yesterday you were asking both AD and LeBron about if they feel like underdogs. We actually have that soundbite. We're going to play it right now. Here's what both LeBron and AD had to say when asked, do they feel like underdogs as the 7 over the 2?
I don't view it as much of anything because at the end of the day, everyone's record is 0-0 now. And we're playing against a very worthy opponent, and we respect him a lot. So we just got to be ready for the challenge.
We don't look at ourselves as the underdogs, obviously. We knowing that this team that we're facing is a really, really good team. They're second for a reason. So, and that was with and without Ja. So, we got to come in locked in, prepared. But, we don't really look at the seeding. Our goal this season was to get in. Wherever we, got into, and now it's all about matchups and going out and trying to get game 1.
And if you're just joining us, welcome back here to FedEx Forum. Grizzlies getting set to take on the Lakers in Game 1 of this first-round playoff series. Dave McMenamin, happy to have you with us. We just heard from LeBron and Anthony Davis saying they were pretty much all business in that availability. Didn't want to give any bulletin board material. As somebody that covers them every day, what was your take from yesterday's availability?
Yeah, LeBron certainly has been through this many times. This is his 16th postseason, and maybe he made up for some mistakes in the past, perhaps. Putting your words in front of your play. To me, also part of it is if LeBron's going into a series that he knows without a doubt that he believes his team will win, he's going to be a little more free-flowing. But this is a legitimate opponent. I think he said 2 or 3 times in his 4 minutes that we have a lot of respect for this team, and rightfully so. What the Grizzlies have been building over the last several years really since the acquisition of John Morant 4 years ago. They've become one of the premier programs in all of basketball. And LeBron sees that. He sees the roster construction. And I think it's legitimate respect. It's not just trying to sidestep any bulletin board material or group chat material. I think we got to get rid of bulletin board material. Who actually uses bulletin board?
I'll look it up bulletin board.
Group chat material. We got to change the term.
Twitter material.
Twitter material.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
It rolls off the tongue. But yeah, I mean, he sees them as a really good team.
I think we see what a point you made a little bit earlier is just continuity. The Lakers, pretty much a whole new team since the trade deadline, and I think that matters when you come into a playoff series. Like, certainly LeBron and AD are going to touch the ball a lot. Dennis Schroeder is going to touch the ball a lot. But this Grizzlies team is mostly the same team that they had when they started at the beginning of the season, minus obviously Steven Adams and Brandon Clark, who are really important pieces. Really, the only addition to this team that's going to get a lot of minutes for the Grizzlies is Luke Kennard and his ability to shoot the three. I think that continuity that you mentioned is really going to play a part, because when it comes down to the nitty-gritty and that half-court offense, you got to know what your opponent's going to do, but also what your teammate's going to do. I think that's going to play a big part in this one.
Absolutely. Dave, we appreciate you coming on. Before we let you go, I don't know if do you do playoff predictions?
Yeah, I did it for
right.
ESPN.com. I picked Lakers in 7, which is like a coin flip, right? That's a coin flip.
I went with Grizz in 7, which I agree. I think it could really go either way.
But I expect a long series. I think this will be probably the most talked about series of all the first round matchups. So let's start it off today.
Dave McMenamin, ESPN, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Dave.
That was really nice of him to be able to come on with us. I know he's got a ton of commitments. He's got Sports Center that he's going to be on later today, doing all types of hits. Obviously, this game coming on here on ABC24 for us here at 2 p.m. We're going to get right to our next guest because he's waiting here for us. Pete Pranica, Grizzlies play-by-play announcer, coming on here for us.
Come on, slide on in here, Pete.
How's it going?
It's going. It's playoffs. Unfortunately, we can't do the game ourselves, but we'll have the rest of the games until and if there's a Game 7.
Well, you get to really take it in without having to worry about any other commitments. That's the positive, right?
Well, there's so much nervous energy in a playoff game that when you're sitting there and you can't talk about it, it's nice when you're playing a high-stakes game and you can talk about it and be on the air because all your nervous energy comes out that way. Otherwise, I'm just sitting up there, wringing my hands, and it can be difficult.
Pete, you've been with this team for a long time. You've seen the highs and lows. You've seen plenty of playoff games in this building. Just what is the energy like when the playoffs come to town in FedEx Forum? And what do you see from, your spot on the bench that maybe we don't see or people at home don't see?
Well, I think the energy is going to be fantastic. This is the first time you've ever played the Lakers, and it doesn't matter what the seed is. It's still the Lakers. It's still LeBron James. So I think that as hyped as we have seen this building all year long and in previous playoff runs, I think the building is going to be even louder and crazier than it ever has been before. As far as what I expect, this basketball team, if they play their brand of basketball and they don't lose focus and they don't lose sight of the fundamentals, I think they're going to be just fine. But the problem is in a 7-game series and you got to win 4, there are moments when there's going to be a little bit of slippage. You can't have major moments of slippage against a team that features LeBron James.
You're absolutely right. As you're looking around here, there's gold towels as far as the eye can see inside FedEx Forum. These are the growl towels they say with us in this particular go-round. Jaren Jackson Jr. actually made a heinous offense, if you will. He cleaned one. We got a soundbite coming up. Just Jaren telling the story, and then I'm going to come back to you, and I'm going to ask you what your favorite growl towel is. So you think about that while we run this soundbite real quick.
I spilled some juice on the table. And I was like, ooh, it was like, when it's like about to leak off the table. So I just grabbed whatever was closest and I used it and I was like, darn. And then I was like, man, can I get more of these? And I really couldn't get more of these that quick. So don't lose them.
All right, so ground towels are like currency around here. People use them for all kinds of things. First, what's your favorite ground towel? And then, what's kind of the craziest thing you've done with your ground towel, or do you just save them?
I save them, and I've actually thought about having them made into a quilt because there's
plenty.
There's a big stack in my house, and I don't use them to mop up juice or anything like that. I think my favorite ground towel, and maybe it's recency bias, ain't no running in the M.
That's a good one.
I think that's probably my favorite, and Memphis versus Everybody. I think those are the two best.
Pete, let me ask you, to get back to the basketball side of things, we know what the Stars are going to do in this one. I want to ask you, do you have an X factor in this game that you think is really going to maybe turn the tide, whether it be over the span of a whole series or just winning you one game? Who do you think stands out on either side could be an X factor in this one?
Well, I think if the Lakers are going to go win this series, D'Angelo Russell has to play much better than he did in the play-in game, and he certainly is capable of doing that. I think he and Dennis Schroeder caused the Grizzlies a lot of problems. It doesn't matter what uniform Dennis Schroeder is wearing, he has always caused the Grizzlies a lot of problems. For the Grizzlies, I think that Xavier Tillman is going to have to be big. You got to be dealing with Anthony Davis. It can't be Jaren Jackson Jr. all the time. Jaren's got to stay out of foul trouble. So can X be physical with AD and force him to miss some shots, box him out on the glass and get some rebounds that AD otherwise might get? I think he's going to be an X factor in the series for sure, because we know we won't have Steven Adams.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Xavier Tillman really has been excellent for the Grizzlies since he's kind of moved into that starting lineup with Steven Adams out. And what we've seen him is he played some of the bigs back to back to back. There was a stretch where he played Joel Embiid, Nikola Jokic, and then Anthony Davis back to back to back. And particularly against Davis, he played well. Anthony Davis still got his, but he was able, Xavier Tillman able to have a double-double in that game, still play really well. I think you make a great point. X factor is certainly one. Clayton, do you have an X factor in this series?
Yeah, for me, it's the half-court offense, especially for the Grizzlies. The Lakers are such a great half-court team. I actually wanted to ask you about this, Pete. With Luke Kennard, him coming on late, Steven Adams did so much to cover for some of the issues with that half-court offense. Does adding that second shooter in Luke Kennard when he's in there with that big three, are they able to compete in that half court with this Lakers squad?
Yeah, because this is going to spread out the floor.
Right.
So ball movement, body movement, and Luke Kennard is the league's leading three-point shooter. So I think if you have him and Bane on the floor at the same time, Bane can create off the bounce. We've seen Luke do some creating off the bounce as well. But just the fact that you can space the floor so much better with those two guys on the floor. The thing with the half-court offense, it cannot bog down. It can't be Ja pounding the dribble out in front, waiting for somebody to get open. 5 guys are going to have to move. Ball's going to have to move. If they can do that, and with those guys spacing the floor, I think the half-court offense can work.
Now, the issue, obviously, without having Steven Adams, how thin you are in the front court. I know we've talked about it ad nauseum, but it is still a major factor in this series, especially with, as we talked about, how LA this season has picked up quite a few different calls. There's a lot of talk, fan-wise, about superstar calls as well. How smart is Jaren Jackson Jr. going to have to play in this series in order for them to move on?
Very.
Yeah.
I mean, look, all you hockey people out there talk about discipline and not taking penalties. Jaren can't take fouls. And if you're going to take a foul, it has to be important enough for you to take that foul. The little touch fouls, and Jaren has a bad habit when he starts a drive that he's coming with the hook, and it's a cheap offensive foul, but it's a correct call. He can't do that. What Jaren has to do is mentally he has to be strong enough that if he picks up an early foul, be very focused, don't pick up a quick second, because a quick second is going to put you on the bench. And understand that letting a guy get a dunk over you and not committing a foul is more valuable to your team, because yes, you give up 2 points, but if you have to go out of the game, your team may go -10 while you're off the floor. So the best ability is availability, and staying out of foul problems has to be job one for him.
And Anthony Davis learned that lesson, that it was good to get dunked on as opposed to fouling when they were here last month.
Right.
There's also the factor of road versus home here. Just that environment, it's already been a struggle for the Grizzlies this year, but games 3 and 4 going out to LA, how difficult is that going to be for the Grizzlies? How much pressure does that put on the Grizzlies for game 1 and game 2 here at home to come out 2-0?
Well, they know that the 2 games they played at Crypto against the Lakers, they had chances to win. If Desmond Bane doesn't have a very uncharacteristic turnover at midcourt, maybe the Grizzlies win that game. So I don't think that they're going to be worried about it or upset about it. And how they approach games 3 and 4, ask me again after games 1 and 2.
Well, do you have I don't want to put you on the spot. Do you have a prediction, or did you give out a prediction?
I did not give out a prediction. I think it is going to be a very intense series. I think it's going to be a close series, and it would not surprise me if we're back here in 2 weeks for a game 7.
All right. Well, I said Grizz in 7. What did you have?
I've been strangely quiet over here with my prediction. I don't think Game 7 is out of the question, but I'm going to be confident in what my eyes have seen all year. I'm going to say Grizz in 6. I think they still win on the road. I think they handle it. We'll get this done maybe in LA. As long as we get it done, that's all that matters, right? So I would say Grizzlies in 6.
See, I think it's really going to come down with Game 1 and Game 2 here. If they come out 1-1, I think that's an issue for the Grizzlies because I think there's a realistic chance you come back down 3-1. That said, I could still see it going 7, even if you are down 3-1 and come all the way back to win the series. But when the lights are on for this team, just have you seen from your perspective them rising to the occasion? Like, does the bright spotlight of this moment, does that concern you? Does that encourage you for this young Grizzlies team?
It more encourages me simply because that's when Ja Morant plays his very best. And I think maybe going into the series last year against Minnesota as a 7 seed and a team that you handled in the regular season, maybe there was a little bit of, I don't want to say overconfidence, but you felt good going into the series. You're playing the Lakers and LeBron James, okay? There's no way you could be overconfident. And I think the fact that you see purple and gold on the other side of the floor and you see LeBron James on the other side of the floor will make you focus even more. So I think this is an opportunity for this team to raise its play, to raise its level of concentration. And if you win this series and you beat a LeBron James Laker team in the first round of the playoffs, it's huge in franchise history.
Now, the last aspect for me that I wanted to bring up is that throughout these practices, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, nobody really wanted to give bulletin board, whiteboard, Twitter material to anybody.
Facebook material.
There's been some smack talk over the years between these two teams. You know, Dez and LeBron have gotten into it before as well.
Is Shannon Sharp in the building? We need to establish that.
Do you expect that to continue? And how quickly can that switch flip to suddenly it being a trash-talking series?
If the Grizzlies end up playing Golden State in the second round, there'll be trash talking.
I meant this series.
But to your point, I don't think here. You have to respect LeBron James. You have to respect Anthony Davis. You have to respect the history of the Laker franchise. And I think the Grizzlies do. And so, that's why Dylan Brooks says, hey, I'd love to play LeBron James because he's one of the greatest of all time. So if you are a competitor, you want to play against one of the best in the business. And that's exactly what they're going to do. So I see this as being a respectful series. That's not to say the Grizzlies won't play with their characteristic edge, but I don't think you're going to see the level of chatter you would in a series with the Golden State Warriors team, for example.
And that's something that I found interesting was that Dylan Brooks soundbite about wanting to guard LeBron in a 7-game series. That went everywhere. That was seen by some as smack talk. For us here, we've seen Dylan say he wants to play the best all year long, whether that's the Trailblazers, whether that's the Lakers, whether that's the Warriors. He wants the best player. And for him, a 7-game series against one of the greatest of all time, yeah, that's how he's wired. So that's how I took it as well.
Oh, exactly. I mean, we talk about it in crunch time. Do you have guys, there are some guys that run to the ball and some guys run away from it. Dylan Brooks is always going to run to wherever the key play is. That's the type of guy you want. You want guys like that on your team. You want guys that want to challenge themselves. You want guys that don't want the easy path. You want guys that are going to be competitors, and Dylan Brooks certainly is that.
I think that quote we were talking about with Dylan Brooks is kind of the epitome of the ain't ducking no smoke, right? That's something the Grizzlies have kind of hung their hat on since Ja Morant had that bulletin board material, Twitter material quote. But Dylan Brooks, he is the epitome of what this team means when you talk about not ducking any smoke, running up the chimney. You want the best of the best. I think as a fan base, as maybe as a Grizzly organization, people on the outside, they're like, we're rooting for the Timberwolves. We want the Timberwolves to win in the play-in, so we don't got to see LeBron James. I think, like you said, they respect what the Lakers have done. They respect who LeBron James and Anthony Davis are. But, for this team, it's their time, and that's just kind of how they see it.
I agree. Well, Pete, we appreciate you coming on and taking some time, and we'll let you actually enjoy a pregame where you don't have any responsibilities for once. Take a lap around, enjoy.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, Pete, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Yep, always great talking with Pete. Pete also does 901 FC. He's been with the NBA internationally. He does just about everything.
I feel like I know Pete like a personal friend. I watch him on Bally Sports Southeast covering these games day in and day out. He is the elite of the elite when it comes to covering a team, letting a moment breathe, and really just covering a team in the NBA the way it should be. So thank you to Pete Pranica for joining us today.
Absolutely. We really appreciate all of our guests that have come on so far, but now it's just me and you. Let's talk a little bit about this matchup as well. Ja Morant versus LeBron James. It doesn't get much better than that. On the one end, Ja Morant is so fast. They want to play, get out in transition. That's obviously how the Grizzlies are. They lead the league in paint points. They're one of the best when it comes to fast break points. LeBron's team plays so well in the half court. I mean, something has to give in this series. What do you see, Avery, as the dictation of pace progresses here?
I just want to see who's going to guard Ja Morant over the course of 4 games. The last time they played the Lakers here in FedEx Forum, Ja exploded in the third quarter, and you're wondering who are the Lakers going to be able to put on him that's going to be able to keep him held down, because you're not going to be able to stop him. You can only slow him down. I think that goes both ways with both Ja Morant and LeBron James, or Ja Morant and Anthony Davis, or even a Desmond Bane kind of situation. One of these stars are really going to explode. This is going to me, it's really going to depend on when does it happen, how does it happen, and for how long does it happen. As far as pace goes, honestly, both these teams do both of those things really well. They both have higher paces in the league. They're actually both top 10. But when it comes to the Memphis Grizzlies, they're going to want to get in the paint, but they've also become much more of a perimeter team, especially with the addition of Bernard. 9% from 3, leading the league, ridiculous. And the Grizzlies were actually in the bottom half of the league in 3-point percentage. When Luke Kennard came on, you look at the month of March, the Grizzlies were top 15, in 3-point percentage. So it's going to play a part as well. That's going to help in the half court.
Yeah, absolutely. And here was something that I was surprised to see in the game notes. Thank you, Ross Wooden. The Grizzlies not only set the record for their franchise in scoring this year, they also did for 3 points made at 12 per game. The first half of this season, we were talking about how this is not a 3-point team. Obviously, Luke Kennard helped with that, but that was also setting that record for a 4th consecutive season. Day one, when Taylor Jenkins was introduced, he started saying, let it fly, let it fly, let it fly. He has been cliche at times, but consistent in that cliche, and it's paying off right now, 12 threes a game. I think personally the X factor here is Luke Kennard and how big of a contribution he can make on that perimeter, and as we talked about, how he changes the dynamic afterward.
Yeah, absolutely. Luke Kennard has really been phenomenal. Like I said, the number 1 3-point shooter by percentage in the NBA, and all you did was pair him up with another top 15, top 20 3-point shooter in the NBA with Desmond Bane. So the way the Lakers are going to have a problem in picking their poison when the 2 of those guys are on the floor, especially with a Tyus Jones in a situation like that. We talked about that net rating of plus 20 when Tyus Jones, Desmond Bane, and Luke Kennard are on the floor. And then even with a Ja Morant on the floor, with Desmond Bane and Luke Kennard with Ja Morant, it just spreads you out so much. You can't afford to leave those guys alone. You give them a window. They're such good shooters. You get a hand up late, it's almost automatic. That allows Ja Morant to get into the paint, and he leads the league in paint points. And when it comes to the clutch time, Ja Morant, incredibly great in the third quarter. Desmond Bane in the fourth quarter is incredible. And you got a Luke Kennard in the mix on the 3-point line. It's going to play a big part.
It is. I will say, though, it feels like a lot of us, and Pete highlighted him, so not Pete, but a lot of people really have kind of glossed over D'Angelo Russell. I mean, yes, he was handled in that playoff series for the Grizzlies because of Dylan Brooks, but when you have LeBron and AD and then trying to also handle him too, he's a guy that can burn you. And if you're so focused on LeBron and AD, D'Lo might be that X factor for them. That could at least win you a playoff game, if not sway a series.
Yeah, I completely agree. D'Angelo Russell at one point was an all-star. You know, he's kind of moved around. At one point was with the Lakers, went over to the Timberwolves and came back. He is absolutely, he is their point guard. And I think we think of Dennis Schroeder a lot when it comes to coming off the bench and the way he's able to play with LeBron and AD. But D'Lo, I agree, he could be the one who swings the series.
we're about to wrap up here, but Avery, last thing that I wanted to mention was we had talked about how the first home games of last year's playoff series, the Grizzlies ended up losing game 1, went on to win the Timberwolves series, didn't for the Warriors. Starting where we're beginning here, just how important is tonight to get the job done?
It's huge. I think tonight makes a statement for either team. But for the Grizzlies, you get a home win in game 1, you allow this crowd to propel you to a win that way. It's really going to make a statement. It's going to put the pressure on the Lakers to get a game 2, because if they sneak out with 1, all they got to do is win 1 or 2. And like you said, the Grizzlies could be coming back to FedEx Forum down 3-1. So today is especially important because today is the game you got to play, right? I think from a media perspective, from fans, we like to look forward, game 3, game 4, however many it's going to be. But for the Grizzlies and for the Lakers, the most important game is the game you play today, and they got to get a win.
Absolutely, and you know, it's funny having been here, you know, since when did I get here? 2017. Seeing the tail end of grit and grind. You know, my first week here, I think, was when Zebo and Tony Allen both left for other teams. To now see a lot of that storyline was LeBron isn't playing, he rests when he comes to Memphis. That was at least a storyline for a couple of years, whether that's fair or not. Now he can't do that. Now it's the Grizzlies here. LeBron is here. AD is here. ABC is here. The spotlight is completely on, and it is awesome to see the progression and the growth that has occurred here in the latest chapter in the Ja Morant era. That now we got the spotlight with showtime. It is showtime here at FedEx Forum, and it starts today here on ABC at 2 p.m.
Absolutely. I think the Grizzlies have a chance to put to bed a lot of doubters. A lot of people who have talked about they're not legitimate, even though they're the 2 seed, the Lakers can easily knock them out. Now's the time you can shut them up.
Absolutely. Hey, this is all for us over here on ABC24 Plus on YouTube and Facebook, but if you want to see more coverage, you can watch NBA Countdown on ABC24 starting at 1:30, which is about 6 minutes and 58 seconds from now, if that's about right.
You're only looking at the clock.
Yeah. And then the game starts at 2 p.m. on ABC24. Avery and I are going to be back here right after the game live with immediate reaction, talking about what this means in our 4:30 broadcast of ABC24 News. That's coming up. But Avery, it's been a pleasure. I'm sick of hearing my own voice. So let's wrap this thing up. Thanks for watching, guys. Oh, thanks for being with us. That's the growl towel.
Oh, he missed it. There it is. There it is.
Can't leave without showing you the growl towel. We'll leave you with this. Thanks for joining us. Stay with us.